Hey everyone, welcome back to Vanlife Eats. Now today I'm going to be cooking a cake in the legendary Omnia stovetop oven. Now, yeah, that's right, me cooking a cake, not Sophie. It's my turn to show you how I do my cakes. Now it's going to be a savoury cake, and it's going to be a cake that will blow your mind. It's a mashed potato cake. First up, I'm going to use 4 large potatoes for this. I'm just going to boil that up. I'm just going to chop them fairly evenly. I'm going to leave the skin on, and I'll show you why. So I'm just chopping them into thirds, and I'll leave the skin on. Now this is a really good recipe for using leftover mashed potato. So if you had mashed potato yesterday, don't throw it away, keep it. So into the cold water. The general rule is with root vegetables, they go into the cold so that the centre of them heats up while the water heats up at the same time. Now I'm going to heavily salt this. Pink Himalayan, as always with me. It's my favourite type of salt. Okay, that's heavily seasoned. Save the salt for later because we will need that. I'm going to let that bring up to the boil. I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to let that boil for about 20 minutes. So that's been going for about 30 minutes. I can feel the potatoes, they're softening, but they are still a little bit hard. But to save gas, I'm just going to leave the lid on, and I'm just going to let them steam away for a little bit longer, and just going to do other things while I'm waiting. Okay, excellent. So they are now nice and soft and ready to be drained. Now the big question of why I didn't peel them, because when you don't, you can just do that. I mean, man, isn't that better than sitting there all day long peeling potatoes when you can just do that? Done. See what I mean? Genius. Okay, now, so we've got all of those peeled. It's time to mash them up. I don't have a potato masher in the van. I never have had a potato masher in the van. But what I use is this bamboo fork. Now, you can't use a metal fork because you'll just scratch the crap out of your tin, but this bamboo one's perfect. It just mashes up beautifully. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're questioning my smoothness, and I'll be making this at Vanlife Eats 2024, and all of you can come up and try it. Now, it will be the smoothest mash you've ever had, almost as smooth as me. So next up, we're just going to add a nice big dollop of butter, and I'm going to tell you it's going to be about that much, which is about 2 tablespoons. We'll just drop that in, and that butter's just going to smooth it out even more. So 4 big potatoes, 2 small eggs. That's the rule. And we'll just give that a really good mix. Beat that in. Okay. So next thing we want to do is we want to add a load of Parmigiano cheese. So I'm going to use about half a block of that. It's about 85 grams. So there we have one epic mountain of deliciousness, and we're just going to mix that in. We're also going to add some salt and pepper. Black pepper. Okay, we'll give that a good mix. Okay, that is lovely and fluffy. Beautiful. Okay, so this is the point where we are going to start by preheating the Omnia. And when I say preheating, I mean you've got to preheat this little steel ring that sits on the bottom. You get that nice and hot. And meanwhile, we're going to start building our cake. So what I like to do is I like to just grease the inside of the Omnia ring. I always use the silicone mould, but which makes things a hell of a lot easier to get out of it. But all the same, I still do like to grease the inside, just lightly greased. So I'm just going to just drop in just a little wedge there, tiny little cornered wedge. And then spread that around like so. Okay, so first of all we want to just build a layer in the bottom of the Omnia. So I like to just do it in dollops, just give it a little spin, dollop by dollop, get it nice and even. And you want to do roughly half the mixture. So we've got a top layer and a bottom layer. Okay. The next layer we want to do, more cheese, obviously more cheese. Cheese, never have enough cheese. So, right, you can use a ball of mozzarella, a ball of fresh mozzarella, but what I do find with that is it's really easy to make the mash go all watery. So I like to use just some shredded, like pizza style mozzarella. But what you can do, if you do want to use a ball of fresh mozzarella, just make sure you really dry it out and it's not too watery. So now the next layer we're going to do is a layer of this lovely prosciutto. You can just use some thinly sliced ham, but this stuff is the bollocks. This prosciutto ham is just amazing. Look how thin it is, you can almost see through it. So I've used a whole pack there, just because I can, and because it's delicious. Okay, now I'm just going to put some more mozzarella in there as well. Now for the topping. Again, just dollop by dollop. And then we're just going to spread that nice and evenly across the top. And spread that nice and evenly across the top. Nice. It's nice to be a little bit rough, just make some grooves across the top. Now you can just go ahead and bake that like this. However, it's a bit of a cupboard of doom, this one. If you were watching last week's episode, you could see that I made that calabrese stuffed cobbler. That was such a good sandwich, amazing. But when I took all of the bread out of the middle, you could use that, save that bread and use that as breadcrumbs for this. But I'm just going to use some paxo and I'm just going to sprinkle those across the top. Just give it a bit of crunch. There it is, ready to bake. Okay, and I do listen to Sophie, and she says that low and slow is always good for this. So you want to get that nice and low so the heat comes up through the middle there. And then the heat will bounce back onto the lid and get that top nice and golden on top. Right, that is going to take about 35-40 minutes. Right, check this out. Now the proof is in the pie, because that is the reason I love the Omnia. Actually it's not, Sophie's Cakes is the reason I love the Omnia. But for when I use the Omnia, this is what I love to cook in an Omnia. I like cooking the pies and roast potatoes and things, but I'm never going to get an oven. I don't need an oven. But this makes this sort of thing possible. Yum. I guarantee none of you are salivating like I am, but unfortunately the wait is not over. We are going to have to wait now for that to cool down, because what happens is, if you take that out of the mould too early, when it's wet, it is just going to collapse. All that cheese and everything, you need it all to firm up a little bit. So we're going to leave that a little while. I am going to try and get it out of the actually out of the aluminium tin though, and we'll get it so it's just sitting there in the silicone. And the silicone, Sophie's knowledge, she said that it still carries on cooking because the silicone stays hot for a long time, so it still carries on the cooking process a little bit, so you need to be mindful of that. But for me, I'm going to get it out the aluminium tin, I'm going to burn my fingers, and I'm going to just leave it on the side, let it cool down for a bit before I take it out and can cut it and I can eat it. Okay, so I've let that cool for about half an hour now, and it's still quite warm, so the cheese will still be nice and melted. But the challenge is getting that onto a plate. Now, I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to film me doing this, but I'm going to do it this way, good old-fashioned way. Oh. I can already tell that is going to be amazing. Whoa. Well, that went surprisingly smooth. Look at that. I tell you what, honestly, it's just so good. The cheesy mash, the crispy top, the Parma ham. That is just, honestly, it's good. You can use any cheese, use cheddar. Everyone will love this. Buon appetito.